Good evening and happy Easter, guys. This is the first of a Facebook Live series for this week, having just passed one of my exams for the Czech Institute in Scientific Core Conditioning. So what I'm going to do over the next 5 days, I'm going to basically give out lots of information about the core and in several different areas. God, I tell you, doing these Facebook Lives is so weird. It's like I'm talking to a room full of people with a blindfold on. It's super weird and quite nerve-wracking, but it's good. It's the best way to get some stuff out to you guys. Over the next 5 days, I'm going to be talking about the core. I've got 5 different areas that I'm going to talk about. So tomorrow, I'm going to run through some core exercises to start conditioning yourself, and I'm going to make it for different levels as well, so anyone can do this, whether you're lacking a lot of core strength or whether you've already got a lot of core strength. So then the second day I'm going to talk about desktop posture and some of the things that sitting at a desk can do to you. I'm going to talk specifically about something called forward pelvic tilt, because it's an issue that I've been finding with numerous clients, and they've all got one thing in common, and that's that they all sit at a desk. So I'm going to give some advice of how to possibly fix forward pelvic tilt on Tuesday. The third day, on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about the TVA, which is the transverse abdominis, like on own natural weight belt, and the innermost abdominal wall. I'm also going to talk about the breathing mechanism and how how it is integral to our stability for the spine and also helps us breathe. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about the belly that overhangs. Now, if you've got a abdominal wall that's not functioning properly, we can get something called visceratosis, which causes our guts to fall out, basically. And you may not have a lot of body fat, but if you've got this weak abdominal wall, then our organs literally spill out. So I can show you guys of how to avoid that and recondition it and bring that belly in. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about on Friday the core's importance to our posture and why endless crunching is not the best of ideas. So first off, just going to give some background around the core, and if you guys got any questions, fire away, and then I'm going to answer them throughout the week. So you can think of the core, well, the saying is you cannot fire a cannonball from a canoe. Now, having a weak core is just like exactly doing that. So imagine you've got a big cannon on, not a pirate ship, but a canoe. What's going to happen when you fire that cannonball? It's going to rip the thing apart. Same with your body. So say if you don't have that stable base to push from, anytime you say open a door or throw a punch, if you're a boxer, or just about any movement where you need to stabilise, if you're lacking that stability, you set yourself up for possibly damaging yourself. And without a strong core, we struggle to have stability all throughout our body, and this can lead to lower back pain. It can lead to, as I said earlier, the gut coming out. And all sorts of stuff. So it's also where our raw power is generated. So yeah, especially if you are a boxer, this is where everything comes from. The punch doesn't come from the arm. Well, the punch actually originates in the leg, but it's the core that transfers the power through. So if you've got a weak core, you're not able to punch very well, or in fact play any sports. Imagine you're throwing a ball. If you've got no core strength, you've got nothing to anchor yourself from to be able to generate the power to throw that ball. There's literally nothing behind you. So you develop the core in terms of weightlifting as well. You develop this and you'll get instantly stronger without developing any muscles, just because you've got that stable base to push from. So yeah, really important. So you can think of the core like a box, front, sides, top and bottom. So the top and the bottom of your box, well, the top is formed from your diaphragm, which is the muscle at the bottom of your rib cage. We're going to talk a lot more about the diaphragm when I come into the breathing section on Wednesday. Really important. If you've got a strong diaphragm, you've got a strong voice, you make a good singer, among many other things, and you breathe a lot more efficiently. The bottom is your pelvic floor. which literally holds all of your organs in from the bottom. So when people get that pooch, that belly hanging out, it can be often to do with the innermost abdominal wall and the pelvic floor not lacking strength. Then you've got the sides of your box, which are the obliques. You've got internal and external. Now they work together to rotate the body. So one will contract, well, they will both contract with each other to either pull you this way or this way. But if both internal and external oblique on one side contracts, then you're going to get a side bend like that. So the sides are responsible for rotation. And then you've got the front of your box, which is your six-pack, which is responsible for strength and stability, but more so strength. And this is responsible for bending you over and flexing and extending yourself. Then you've got the back, ever so important, keeps your spine in check, and yeah, just forms the back of the core. So a strong core is a strong back, a weak core is a weak back. So you need to develop the front to develop the back. It's all interlinked. Nothing in the body exists in isolation. Everything helps everything else, and everything affects everything else. Which brings me nicely on to the next point. In that you can think of your body a little bit like a bicycle rim. So you've got all these spokes coming out to the bicycle, okay? Now, in a nicely tuned bicycle wheel, all the spokes are going to be exactly the same, tuned exactly the same, and the bike's going to run really nicely, and it's not going to be warped, and you're going to get a smooth ride out of it. Now, when you have muscles that don't work properly, or are too short and tight, or long and weak, because what can happen is if say we crunch all the time, then certain muscles are going to get tight. So we tighten the spokes here, and if we don't look after other muscles, those spokes are going to get weak. So what happens on a bicycle wheel, if you've got some tight spokes here, some weak spokes there, it's going to pull your bicycle wheel out of alignment, and you're not going to get a smooth ride. So the same is true of the body. So when we start getting things out of alignment, all this sort of this forward head posture stuff starts happening, the rounded shoulders, the hunched over. So all of these are kind of like tight spokes and weak spokes. You can also think of the core a bit like a pirate ship. So with your spine being the mast. So imagine you've got your ship mast, and you've got all of these ropes coming up off your ship mast to support the ship mast, okay? So you've got one from the front, a couple from the back, and a couple from the side, keeps it nice and upright. Now imagine if one of these ropes is super tight and it's pulling the mast this way, and then another rope is super loose, so it's not able to pull the mast back that way. So you've got the scenario where your mast is under strain. Now imagine the mast is the spine, and you've got things pulling it in all sorts of crazy directions, and it's not balanced. You're not a nice smooth bicycle wheel. It's going to create pain, which this is the reason for lots of back pain. I mean, about 1,000,001 things can cause back pain, but you know, looking at the spine and its position in the back and what it's doing is a good way forward to getting to the root of this problem. And so spine is your ship mast, your ropes are all of your muscles. So say if you've got a really tight rectus abdominis, which is your six-pack, this is real tight. Yo Barry, yes mate, just tuning in bud. So yeah, you've got the six-pack, imagine that's really tight, and there's no back muscles to be able to pull back, or there's no muscles pulling from the side because they're not developed or they've fallen asleep. Now, that's going to bring you this way, your back's not going to get the support, you're going to start getting hunched over, and your ship mast is being pulled. That's going to create pain. Okay, so yeah, so a couple of analogies. Metaphors are great, like Barry and Laura, Barry's watching, teaching me about metaphors. Best way to explain things, in my opinion. I sort of get them really easily, so hopefully you guys do too. So next I want to talk a little bit about the inner and outer units. So we've got 3 layers of abdominal wall, and they all perform different functions. Your innermost layer, which we're going to go in depth in on Tuesday and Wednesday, is called the transverse abdominis. Now this is huge. It attaches to the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your pelvis, goes all the way around to the back. It's only about that thick, but it's very, very important. Now this provides most of our stability. Now this transverse abdominis, innermost layer, it stabilizes, and then the body is able to react. So say if you were to throw a punch, the transverse abdominis would stabilize a split second before you throw that punch, to be able to stabilize, to have somewhere to push back from. Oh, that's funny. Boosh! And then the outer unit, which are all the muscles on the back, no, not the back, the extremities, they provide more of the strength for the movements. Now, what can happen is if you're not breathing correctly, and we'll go more in depth on this on Wednesday, and you do a lot of sitting, your transverse abdominis, so your inner unit, the lowest layer of abdominal muscle, can stop working. It can completely turn off. Now, other things can cause this as well. If you had a cesarean section or an operation on the stomach, that can seriously it destroys the abdominal wall. So you need to re-educate the nervous system, get that back online, because that provides stability for your spine. You're not going to get the belly coming out, so it's very important. So also you can get an imbalance between inner and outer units, which can also run you into a bit of trouble, because eventually, imagine your ship, go back to the ship mast, if one of your ropes just isn't there, then the other ropes have to pick up the slack. Now, eventually something's going to give, because they're overloaded, they're doing a lot more than they should be, which is what having a weak or non-working inner unit is like. So the outer unit is going to try and do the work of the inner unit, and it's just not going to work. You're going to end up hurting yourself, doing an injury, or hopefully not. And you may one day go for a squat or something like that, and because you don't have that stability, you do yourself a mischief. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there tonight. I'm not going to, so all the further videos, we're going to try not to do essays, because we want you guys to be able to pick it up bite size, and yeah, for it to go in. And I think longer videos are a bit more difficult for that to happen. So this has been the introduction. Please leave any comments below, or especially questions, and I'll look to answer the questions throughout the week. And yeah, so just to recap on the 5 subjects. Monday, I'm going to take you guys through some exercises for the lower abdominals, down here, the obliques on the side, and the upper abdominals. Tuesday, I'm going to explain a little bit about what can happen with sitting at a desk quite a lot, and what can cause the pain, and some possible fixes. On Wednesday, I'm going to talk more about the transverse abdominis and how important it is for breathing, and I'm going to teach you correct breathing technique as well, diaphragmatic breathing rather than chest breathing, explain the relevance of that. Thursday, I'm going to talk about the visceratosis, the belly hanging over. So you may not have a lot of weight, but if that abdominal wall is not strong, you're going to have all of this belly. Like, well, where's this belly come from? I'm not fat, but I've got this big belly that comes out. Well, what's with that? Abdominal wall. So I'm going to talk about that, and there's things that you can do to start reconditioning it. And then Friday, I'm going to talk about core, its relevance to your posture. So a little bit more about what can cause this kind of thing. And explain why endless crunching is no good, and give some viable, really good alternatives to instead. So by the end of the week, hopefully we'll get a load of people training the core properly, and hopefully some people in less pain, and yeah, hopefully get some value from it. So thanks a lot for listening, guys, and yeah, good night. Oh, cheers, Barry. Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's so interesting, and yeah, I mean, it forms the basis of everything. You want to get stronger, develop the core. Don't even need to develop any other muscles. Develop the core, you're going to get stronger. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and be online every night this week. Happy Easter. Cheers. Bye.